virginal there.
Oh, that should have been on the recording.
I hope so.
Are you still having no sex?
Yeah, still no sex.
Really? How long's that? Like 6 months now?
Not 6. Well, actually, coming up to it. Yeah.
Well, why don't we loosen up
Oh,
and
hang
get
on.
personal?
Wait a minute. I have a video happening.
Oh,
It's not 6 months, but a couple of months for sure. Yeah.
It was 3 months last time we spoke.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 months, 4 days, and 20 seconds.
So yeah, and counting. The deliberate abstinence from physical activity on any point is pointless. On anything is pointless. I think you'd have to look at it from your own point of view, really. But if you've gone 3 or 4 months, it's like when you give up alcohol or give up anything. Once you past a certain period of where the urge to want to pick up, the urge to want to drink, then like you're free of it. Really, it doesn't matter. There's a certain point. It's like it only has the meaning that you give it. So it's not about like pursuing a spiritual release through the relinquishment of things. Isn't about maintaining that relinquishment, because then that becomes itself a practice, right? And the purpose of salvation is to liberate you from all temporal associations, including your spiritual practices, right? So have sex, don't have sex, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter either way, right? But there's a point where you recognize, and this is where self-honesty comes in, there's a point where you recognize within yourself, oh, it still matters to me one way or the other. Right? So it's like I'm asexual. I don't care one way or the other. It doesn't worry me. It's like I don't have a preference and I don't not have a preference. It's just like that's a whole whatever it is. That's where it's at.
It's like, okay, this is really good. You're saying, I love this. But like, I guess the reason I have given it to it, or it was. I'm doing the act, but oh God, we're getting really comfortable. Okay. I'm not releasing. I'm not releasing. So meaning is.
Right.
I'm not coming. I can't even come anymore. I can't come.
Right.
I can't.
Which is not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you obviously have a block around it.
Yes.
Yes. Whether that's temporary because you're focused on other aspects of your self-work, or whether it's something you've just convinced yourself of as a permanent fixture, I don't really know. You'd have to answer that for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there would probably be guilt there if you're forcing it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can only come if I'm thinking about sinful stuff. How's that? I think
that's the whole.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think this is like the deepest stuff. Sex is so like the top of for me about like feeling guilty and separated, and I can enjoy myself without God being there, and and all that stuff. Really deep, really deep. Like how I think I can come without God. How's that? Oh God.
Eventually you're going to let go of all that stuff anyway, and it'll just happen.
So.
Byproduct of transformation. And you'll tend to recognize the falling away of it, and there's I don't know what those 5 stages of denial are, where you go through the particular stages. They talk about it when somebody faces tragedy, there's regret and anger and all these sorts of things. So I don't know whether that runs along par with releasing physical urges. But the good thing is, like the purification of your mind, it takes on board all of that sort of stuff. You know, so you start on a journey of purification, and then if you're meant to have sex, you'll have sex. If you're not meant to, you won't. It's like, it's really thy will, not my will. You know, thy will be done, but God's will for you is perfect happiness. So whatever comes along is going to serve that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll have these moments where you'll say, well, I'm not happy about this. How can this be God's will? I'm not happy about this. But if God's will is complete, you must be happy about it because you're included in that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where you face your denial. It's like, oh, I must be happy about the way this is. I'm just in denial of it. Right? It's when people have, let's say it as an example, people have thoughts about revenge, you know, or vengeance or something, and then they hear on the radio, you know, like Mary Blunt from the Angel of Death Row we were talking about the other week. And all of a sudden she heard that her son's killer was coming up for execution, even though in her heart and mind she'd sworn to God that she had forgiven him. She recognized there a little leap of joy when she heard on the radio that he was up for execution, you know. But she didn't recognize that joy, that secret joy was sitting there in her heart, in her association. And so she actually had to go and visit the killer, you know, and forgive him in person, and etc. Anyway, another story. So that'll all get brought up. All of that stuff gets brought up. So when you find something, you go, well, this is what's happening for me. I'm not happy about it, but God's will for me is perfect happiness. Therefore, I have to accept it to be happy. Well, yes, you have to accept it, but you can't accept it until you recognize that it is also your happiness as well. Otherwise, you're still separating your will from God's. This must be my will. And that's how denial works. You know, it's like denial is denial because, like, it's implicit in the word. I'm in denial. How would you know?
Yes,
because I'm actually in denial, so I wouldn't know
yes,
if I'm.
yes. So how do you, okay, from a point of view, Dave, how do you
that's why you
accept
need
your
to
own
look at
denial?
God's will. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Right? Are you perfectly happy? Or
No.
is there that little, right, exactly. So there you go. There's the separation. Now you need to look at it. All right, I'm denying God's will.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is no big deal. I mean, welcome to planet Earth. That's what the planet represents, you know. But within that, being able to see the witnesses to truth in you is what we're looking for. So being able to be honest about your own particular and individual participation with the atonement is going to be helpful to you in being able to see the witnesses to truth. You know, and you'll be walking down the street one day and you'll just click your fingers and you'll have one of those light bulb moments and you'll be like, holy shit, I do still want to have sex, or holy shit, I do, or I don't still want to have sex, or whatever it is. It's like you can't avoid it. And the idea of attempting to give it up for a prolonged period or for forever or whatever, as a means to try and push the energy, as a means to try and bring up some kind of thing, that can take you forever, right? We could be all sitting here at the end of time waiting for Bernadette to finally have a giant orgasm so we can all go home.
You know, okay, this is funny you're saying that, because it's like, before I decided I'm not going to do it, I didn't want to do it. And as soon as I decided I don't want to do it, I wanted to do it. I said, son of a bitch.
Exactly. Right.
Like, I was having sex, but I couldn't come. And I was like, oh, fuck, why am I even doing this? So I'm going to give this up. And all of a sudden, all I can think of middle of the night to get up and toss one so I can feel better. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
yeah. You have to be honest, Bernadette.
yeah.
There's no point forging ahead at something where the foundation for the purpose of it is dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like if I'm going to make a decision about anything, before I make the decision, I really need to know what side of the fence I'm on with it. Otherwise, what sort of a decision am I making? Is it an honest decision or not an honest decision? Because I'm telling myself that I want my experience in the world and I want my relationship with God to function along the lines of an honest and a helpful perspective. But if I'm not honest from the outset about the decisions I'm making with myself, then how the hell do I know if that's going to be the way that things proceed or not? And I'll get halfway along, let's say I'll get 3 or 4 months into it, and I'll be like, what the fuck's going on? Why am I even doing this? I don't seem to be getting any kind of positive feedback or any kind of true witnessing here, right? It's because denial laced the decision right from the beginning, and it always does. Right? You can't say, it's like Jesus when in the Bible when he talks about worrying, he says, why the hell do you even worry about stuff? You can't change one hair on your head from black to white. You can't do nothing, right? You can't do anything. You can't stop the sun from rising. You can't, you can't do anything here. You're basically in a roller coaster and the cage, the little safety rail is down. You can't get out. And you really have to kind of accept that as a point of view. You have to kind of accept that I'm on a journey from life to death, right? Even though it's illusory. I'm on a journey from this idea of being born to dying. And somewhere in there, there's an opportunity to accept atonement. Now, somewhere in that, and you don't know because everything is chaos, everything is random or seems to be random. You don't know how long you get. One life you might get 100 years, one life you might get 2, one life you might die in the womb, like everything here is kind of chaotic and there's no guarantees for one day to the next, right? Which is why seek the Lord whilst you have breath. So in the attempt of, let's say, mastering a spiritual determination, like giving up sex or I don't even know what other ones there are. My brain doesn't function that way. But in those sort of attempts, all you're doing is trying to push time apart so you can find yourself somewhere in a clear space with it. Does that make sense? It's like you're trying to convince yourself, if I can give up drinking for 6 months, that must mean I'm free of being an alcoholic. It's like, no, it just means that you haven't been an alcoholic for 6 months. But the alcoholic is the tendency in the mind to use the alcohol as a coping mechanism to avoid the recognition of true self, right? That's the same with sex. Some people will use sex that way. Maybe you, maybe not you, I don't know. But some people will become like a nymphomaniac or whatever because it fills the gap, right? It's the gap you need to address, not the activity of whatever it is you're using to fill it. It could be sex, it could be alcohol, drugs, social activities, anything in the world. It could be spirituality. The whole teaching here is be still and know that I am God. Don't adjust to your pain. That's the whole teaching. So when I was many years ago, when I was hanging out with the Hare Krishna guys, right? So they had a big temple. It's the biggest one in Australia. It's 1,000 acres, whatever. But they have a big temple. It was like 10 minutes down the road and they had free lunch every Sunday. Right? And I would go there and they would have all these, I couldn't tell you what they are now, but they would have all these practices that they would do as spiritual observations, right? Spiritual observances to please Krishna and all of these sorts of stuff, rituals and parades and all these kinds of things going on. And it was great. It was beautiful and wonderful, but it's like it didn't actually activate anyone particularly. It didn't actually push any limit there because it ended up becoming something, as all rituals do, it ended up becoming something that was rooted in time, and they would spend a whole year waiting for this particular festival date to come around next year, as a way of prolonging their service to Krishna rather than fulfilling what the whole message of Krishna's teaching is here and now, which is to know Krishna. Right? So the very spiritual practices they adopted as an observance of worship became the things that worked against them. And I'm not saying that there might not have been one or two that got so caught up in the fervor that they didn't have an experience of Krishna. But in general, you've got 500 Hare Krishnas all bloody making garlands and doing what they do as an observance of something that isn't serving them. They may as well be working for the city council, organising street cleaning or doing anything. It's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing. So your practice of abstinence and whatever it is like that, or your decision for abstinence, unless that's an honest decision, unless that's a place that's designed specifically to push that limit, then all it's doing is manufacturing a witness of time. And it's like, well, I haven't had sex for 6 months or a year or 10 years or 20 years. I mean, what's it going to be? I haven't had an orgasm for this, for that, for how long, whatever. What's it going to be? Because none of that matters. None of that really matters. It might matter to you, but you would have to ask yourself, why does it matter to me if my goal is to recognize God now? If my goal is direct union with God and I choose to be truly happy and accept God's will, why wouldn't I do that right now? You're not guilty of anything, Bernadette. There's no such thing as sinful thoughts. Think whatever you want. They just don't mean anything. You have to give them meaning, right?
I see. Okay.
Right, exactly. You would have to give it a meaning. You know, it's like laying there in bed with your eyes closed, imagining Brad Pitt between your legs instead of whoever it is, you know, and that's a funny reference I have. Oh, no, it was Tom Cruise. That's right. But that's another story. But Tina's making eyes there. I would have to give those thoughts all the meaning they have in order to get the results of extending that meaning out into that way of thinking. You know, and it's like, oh, I see. I'm doing this to myself. I'm getting the results of my own thinking. But if my thoughts have no meaning and I've accepted that, like truly accepted that, then obviously I'm not going to be reacting to these kinds of thoughts, right? It's your thoughts that you react to, not the person, not the act, not the situation. It's your thoughts about it. Everything is a thought in the mind. So when you give it up for 3 months or 6 months or whatever, it's like, well, I could just give up my thoughts now. But that's going to have to be miraculous. Right? That saves me all the time and creates that gap, or not creates the gap is already there, but removes my thinking from the place where it's attempting to clutter up my vision of the true nature of the impulse that I'm having, rather than corrupting it into some sort of sexual activity on the surface. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're always trying to obscure the vision of God. You're always trying to obscure or just keep it a little bit at bay. I like the idea of God, but I don't want that recognition right now. Thank you, Jesus. Right? That's the problem. It's not what you use to keep the problem at bay. It's not sex. It's not overeating. It's not any of that stuff. It's like the problem is that I believe I'm separate from God, and I'm going to maintain that by convincing myself through the use of sex or any other kind of thing that that's the actual fact of the matter, when in fact it's not. And even when you try to turn those things over, even when you try to turn those activities over and use them on behalf of your spiritual transformation, it's never going to work because it's not miraculous. It's
because I'm trying to control it. I'm trying to control it, right?
It's orchestrated by you, the same as, I mean, sex or no sex, both sides of the coin. You're still the one organizing that, right? Whereas the whole point of A Course in Miracles is, I'm going to let it be a miracle. I need to pray my ass off for some kind of change in my thinking so I can actually see what it is the hell that I'm doing here.
Yeah, because I set up the bullshit. I can't solve it, right? I set up the
Of course
stuff.
not. You can't solve it. You're the problem. Problem from the beginning.
Yeah.
Stop trying to use your pointy little brain to get yourself out of the trap that you made for yourself. You can't. Just sit tight and let Jesus get you out, or Buddha or Krishna or whoever. Some reference in your thinking that is outside of the temporal order of life. Right? You need something that's uncorrupted, uncorruptible, which is why it has to be a miracle. And it only has to happen once. It doesn't matter what the trigger is. It could be sex. It could be anything. Right? It's like an alcoholic attempting to manage their alcoholism on their own terms. It's like, no, you can't. Doesn't matter how lofty or how spiritual you think your reasons are. It's not going to work. All you'll do is either kid yourself and spend your life in denial, or you'll end up replacing alcohol with some other kind of addictive thing. Chewing gum. People give up cigarettes and they go into chewing gum, right? Then after a while, chewing gum's like, oh man, my teeth are all rotten. I think I'll go back to smoking cigarettes. It's funny. You can't replace one habit with another, and you can't convince yourself that you're over the habit just because you haven't done it for a while. The habit exists in the mind as an activity of denial. It's like you got to find the denial in order to heal from it. It's like, holy shit, let me look at that. Let me look at my denial in this situation rather than trying to get out of it by doing something else that I think is going to void the situation and my ability to perpetuate a loving relationship with the universe. It's like, I'm going to clean all the rooms in my house except for this one. I'll clean another room twice because then I'll convince myself that it's, you know, I'll pick another room and I'll just clean it twice as much. Doesn't work like that. Have sex, think dirty thoughts, do whatever you want, but look at it from the point of view that, oh, I see the meaning I've given it here. Right? And then be miraculous about it. I don't know anybody.
Okay, so if you what if you give what if you do sex for different reasons?
Stop. Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing. You're still trying to work it out with your own pointy thoughts.
Yes.
See that? Bernadette, look at me. Have sex, think dirty thoughts. All right? Enjoy the fuck out of it, literally. That's supposed to be what it's for. Right? In that, you'll find your denial. Right? You don't have to go through the act. I mean, no big deal. Do it, don't do it. No, it doesn't matter. You don't have to go through the act. If you were truly honest, you could see it in your mind right now. But the whole reason we've got 365 lessons is because we're not truly honest about anything. About anything. Not one little thing. Not even reading these lessons. We're not honest about finding God. We're not honest about wanting a miracle. We just like it because it seems to represent something that's slightly better than the dream of bullshit that we had before. There's a point of self-honesty where you realize, holy fuck, I don't want God. I don't want to be eternally happy. Right? That's the point where everything changes. I don't want to give up sex. You're doing it under false premises, right? That's always the case. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're doing it under false premises, right? Until an alcoholic completes the 12 steps of AA, they're still technically an alcoholic. They still technically don't want to give up alcohol, right? It's like Master Yoda, do or don't do. There is no try. Do or don't do. There is no try, right? Trying implies time. The miracle transcends time. So in the middle of all your regular human stuff, I mean, fuck, sex is nothing. People go off to war and kill each other with guns, like destroy each other's bodies with guns and bombs and horrific shit, and you're worried about sex? Right? Go Go and join a boxing gym and have someone beat the shit out of you. You know? See how that goes down. I bet you really get off on that. It's true. It's just a sliding scale. Life is just a scale on earth. We try to keep ourselves in this containment of what we think normal and acceptable and everything is. But it's like as soon as you allow yourself to step outside the thing, shit starts to get real. You know, you step out of your comfort zone. It's like, oh, I remember why I built a comfort zone now. It's like, that's right. This crap again. It's like, great. That's what you're looking for in your own thinking. That crap. That's where you can learn to be miraculous. I need a miracle, Lord. I need a miracle, Jesus. And you pray and you feel it. You're only going to feel it if you're actually in it. You can't feel it theoretically. Well, I can imagine that going to war would be terrible. Right? You can't imagine going to war would be terrible. You know, it's like you're never going to allow yourself to be honest about that. You would have to sit still for an indeterminate amount of time and allow yourself to try and connect on some kind of imaginary level where you can imagine what it's like to have your leg blown off. You know, or see your best friend shot or, you know, by a tank or something stupid. It's like, how do you find honesty in a place like that? You can't. Learning and teaching is about experience. Experience is always the teacher. So the experience you have, and thankfully, is with sex. Why would you try to avoid it? Use it. Some people don't have that opportunity. Some people have other opportunities and different opportunities. Use it. Use the things that are given to you on the particular, right in front of you on your journey, as the catalysts for your healing. Not by avoiding them or putting them off or trying to transcend them, but by feeling them and being honest about it and totally falling to your knees in grace and surrender in the moment where that honesty actually hits you. And you'll know it when it hits you because you'll recognize your own honesty. It's the only thing you can recognize because you can't recognize denial. Even if people tell you, someone can tell you like 100 times to your face that you're in denial and you'll be like, nah, I'm not. That's you. You know, that must be you because this is a spiritual thing. And you know, all that shit, people do that all the time on Facebook. I used to do it all the time. It's not me, it's you. It's like, no, well, you're my mirror. No, you're my mirror. Where does it stop? It's like, I'm just going to own what I see in the mirror here. It doesn't matter who or what. There's no separation. That's the bottom line. There's no separation. My thoughts go with me everywhere I go. And the manifestations that show up as sex or anything else is nothing but my own thoughts. I'm literally looking at my thinking everywhere I go, showing up in this relationship, that relationship. Now, let me heal it at the level that it's at, which is in my thinking. Trying to heal it in the body is pointless. The body's just going to get old and wrinkly and die. And then what? Well, Fran has a hat on her hat rack. It's actually being useful. All right, anyway, so let's do lesson, what are we up to? 271.
270. 271?
Right.
Yeah, 271. My bad.
Bernadette, don't try and work it out. Just feel. You got this. She'll be running out after this Zoom meeting to buy new batteries. All right, so what is the Christ? Christ is God's Son as he created him. He is the self, capital S. He is the self we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well. He is the thought which still abides within the mind that is his source. He has not left his holy home, nor lost the innocence in which he was created. He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God with Bernadette. Christ is the link that keeps you one with God and guarantees the separation is no more than an illusion of despair. For hope forever will abide in him. Your mind is part of his and his of yours. He is the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. You hear that, Bernadette? All decisions are already made. All you got to do is connect there. One little miracle, one honest prayer, and all those decisions about anything you think is upsetting you or concerning you, including sex, it's already made. It's already done. Here's the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. You got to think of it like when you reboot a computer, right? When you reboot a computer and stuff, you're actually shutting it off and it's starting again from zero, right? So it's like I've got a higher mind and I've got a lower mind. My lower mind engages in the world, see, hear, smell, touch, taste, and everything else. My higher mind, which I probably don't use enough, or if I don't have any kind of spiritual affiliation, I probably never use, right? I'm a bottom dweller, contains the reset or the reboot for the whole thing. When I tap into that through prayer, through meditation, and all of these things that we do in the workbook, when I tap into that, I'm resetting the particulars of not only what I think's going on down here that show me something's off, but I'm resetting my choice to believe in separation where it seems to have occurred, which is in the mind of God's Son, not here on earth where there's a Bernadette and a Dave. Does that make sense? Into eternity where all is one, there crept a tiny mad idea. It didn't crept into the world, it crept into eternity. How did that happen? Right? That's the next logical question. How did that happen? There's no answer to that question. There's only an experience. Be still and know that I'm God. That's where the experience is. Be still and know that I'm God. It's like Jesus went in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. So the story goes, drew a circle and sat there. Come death or come whatever comes, but he wasn't leaving that circle until his faith, through his faith, he had an experience of the truth. He had an experience of going through that intense period of purification with his own temptations and came out the other side of it. That's exactly the same thing you're doing, the same thing I'm doing, except in a slightly slowed down, less confrontational version. Although sometimes I wonder about that. Sometimes the confrontation seems to be right in your face, but it's in the mind of God's Son. That's where it's healed and has already been healed through the resurrection. All I'm doing is accepting my place in that. That's it. In whatever seems to show up down here in the world to try and drag me out of my state of peace, right? That's where your state of perfect peace becomes completely helpful to you, because you can see if you're focused only on peace and something disturbs that, well, there's your trigger. There's your opportunity to be miracle-minded, not to set up your own ideas of how you think you're going to get around it. Got it? Here is the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. He remains untouched by anything the body's eyes perceive. For though in him his Father placed the means for your salvation, yet does he remain the self who, like his Father, knows no sin. Home of the Holy Spirit and at home in God alone, does Christ remain at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. This is the only part of you that has reality and truth. The rest is dreams. Yet will these dreams be given unto Christ to fade before his glory and reveal your holy self, the Christ, to you at last. Like very shortly with Tina. The Holy Spirit reaches from the Christ in you to all dreams and bids them come to him to be translated into truth. He will exchange for them the final dream which God appointed as the end of dreams. For when forgiveness rests upon the world and peace has come to every son of God, what could remain to keep things separate? For what remains to see except Christ's face? And how long will this holy face be seen when it is but the symbol that the time for learning is now over and the goal of the atonement has been reached at last? So therefore, let us seek to find Christ's face and look on nothing else. As we behold his glory, will we know we have no need of learning or perception or of time or anything except the holy self, the Christ whom God created as his son. Okay, and I kind of flew through that a bit, but when you do these next lessons, right? When you do these next lessons, each day you're doing one, 271 today, 272 tomorrow. We're going to do a block of 10 for the purpose of this video. But if you're doing these lessons, I mean, it's not 271 day, but on day 271, you would only do the one lesson, and you would proceed that lesson by reading again the preamble for, what is the Christ, the preamble for this block of lessons. Okay, each day, not just the once. Sometimes, and you'll probably get this in your own study and in your own learning. Sometimes you got to read things like 10 times before it sinks in. It's like Fran with her pen and her study, and she's jotting everything down. And I can tell her till I'm blue in the face, Fran, don't do that. But do you think she's going to not do that? No. Because she's convinced herself that her own thoughts about doing that are somehow going to benefit her, which is not true. She's actually doing the same as you with your sexual abstinence. It's the same thing. She's not listening. She's not hearing. She's jotting stuff down.
If you say so.
That's human. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Therein hangs denial. All right. So, Fran, lesson 271. If you got your book there.
Christ is the vision I will use today. Each day, each hour, every instant, I am choosing. I am choosing what I want to look upon, the sounds I want to hear, the witnesses to what I want to be, the truth for me. Today, I choose to look upon what Christ would have me see. Today, I choose to look upon what Christ would have me see, to listen to God's voice and seek the witnesses to what is true in God's creation. In Christ's sight, the world and God's creation meet. And as they come together, all perception disappears. His kindly sight redeems the world from death. For nothing that he looks on but must live. Remembering the Father and the Son, Creator and creation unified. Father, Christ's vision is the way to you. What he beholds invites your memory to be restored to me. And this I choose to be what I would look upon today.
Good. Do the next one, please, Fran. .
How, how can illusions satisfy God's Son? How can illusions satisfy God's Son? Father, the truth belongs to me. My home is set in heaven by your will and mine. Can dreams content me? Can illusions bring me happiness? What but your memory can satisfy your Son? I will accept no less than you have given me. I am surrounded by your love forever, still, forever gentle, and forever safe. God's Son must be as you created him. Today we pass illusions by, and if we hear temptation call to us to stay and linger in a dream, we turn aside and ask ourselves if we, the sons of God, could be content with dreams when heaven can be chosen just as easily as hell. We turn aside and ask ourselves if we, the sons of God, could be content with dreams when heaven can be chosen just as easily as hell. And love will happily replace all fear. That's good.
Bernadette, 273, please.
You're muted, Bernadette.
Oh, shoot, sorry. The stillness of the peace of God is mine. Perhaps we are now ready for a day of undisturbed tranquility. If this is not yet feasible, we are content and even more than satisfied to learn how such a day can be achieved. If we give the way to the disturbance, let us learn how to dismiss it and return to peace. We need but to tell ourselves with certainty, the stillness of the peace of God is mine, and nothing can intrude upon the peace that God Himself has given to His Son. Father, your peace is mine. What need have I fear that anything can rob me of what you would have me keep? I cannot lose your gift to me. And so the peace you gave your Son is with me still, in quietness and in my own eternal love for you.
Good. one of the points you always, or it's helpful to remember, is trying to think outside the box of time and space, trying to let your mind expand to celestial thoughts rather than just contained within what's between the alpha and the omega, on time and space, beginnings and endings. I like the idea of in the course where Jesus says the end of time can be a long way off, or something he says like that, perhaps more than has been already, and if you're a scientific mind like mine a little bit, I like to look at the quantum of things. The universe is estimated to be 130 billion years old or something. How many incarnations have I had in that time as an entity, as an avatar, as this? So the course comes so that we can learn to collapse time for our own association, individually, and not really collectively, but individually, as a contribution to that one acceptance, that one atonement. Collectively still implies I know that's how it appears in the illusion of things. So it's helpful to look at it. It's like, holy shit, this is my lifetime where I'm accepting atonement. This is my lifetime where I'm putting in place the learning and the practice of applying principles that is changing the direction of my whole way of thinking and my whole physical journey as well. It's like, this is the lifetime that I've chosen. And it's like when Jesus says you have ears but don't hear, he means that. And this is why a lesson repeats until it is learned. We will have the same lessons again and again and again. And it's like, oh my God, I'm still doing that. I'm still playing that same part. Even though we may have identified it 10 years ago or whatever, we'll see it again and again and again. That's because there's the same lesson is being presented again and again and again in 1,000 different ways. Right? In the moment where you truly hear the lesson, in the moment where you truly learn the lesson, you'll be gone from here. You'll experience union with God. Until then, it's all practice. Until then, it's all like fake it till you make it. It's apply it, apply it, apply it, apply it, apply it. Because the mind where the error exists isn't the mind attempting to do the transformative work. The transformative work is occurring in that part of the mind that still believes in misdirection and miscreation. That's why this has to be a miracle, Bernadette. Right? When Jesus says you have ears but don't hear and eyes but don't see, it's like, all right, let me take that on board totally. Let me accept what he's saying. Because I can easily convince myself, oh yeah, I know what he's saying. Bullshit. The moment you know what he's saying, you'll experience what he's saying. Because to know something is to have knowledge of it, and knowledge comes from experience, not from guesswork, not from study. Sir Edmund Hillary, who climbed Mount Everest, first guy to climb Mount Everest, he had knowledge of climbing Mount Everest. Everybody else who listened to his stories, they're just studying. They don't have the knowledge. They haven't yet done it. Oh, there's Marielle. So there's this, there's a place in you where you accept, and there's a place in my mind where I accept when Jesus says, I have ears and don't hear and eyes but don't see. It's like, all right, I'm going to let that be the truth of me. I don't have eyes that see and I don't have ears that hear. I need a miracle. I don't know anything. That puts me in the passenger seat and puts Jesus in the driver's seat. I don't know anything. And as soon as I think I know something, as soon as I think I have, hey, Marielle, as soon as I think I have some kind of idea about something that is useful, helpful, or whatever, then I'm back looking at my own thoughts for that. And that's not what I want to use as references in this journey. in this process of healing. I don't want my own thoughts. Fuck my own thoughts. There's nothing there that's helpful. What is there in my own thinking that brings me any true joy? There's no answers to the meaning of life. I can look in there all I want. I can examine my thinking to its nth degree and sit in like that Buddhist nun that sat in the cave for 12 years. She sat in a cave and didn't come out. Nothing changed for her. She said, oh, it was very quiet in there. She had 12 years of silence. But nothing fundamentally changed. She was still her. She still hadn't had an experience. And, you know, it's like people pursue these things, and I'm just pointing the silent finger at you, Bernadette. People pursue these things for ridiculous amounts of time. A lot of people have incredible amounts of, you know, pilgrimages and things. I mean, St. Francis, I mean, he's slightly a different story because he actually had a result, but, you know, but after St. Francis, everybody thought, oh, let's go cross the Pyrenees mountains like St. Francis and we'll have an experience too. It's like, no, it's got to come from you. It's got to be your thing. It's like Buddha. Oh, Buddha's sitting under the Bodhi tree and had a realization. Let's all sit under Bodhi trees. It's like, that's not it. You know, that was his thing. That was his moment. Your moment is your moment. It can just as easily happen in the middle of sexual coitus rather than as much as sitting under a Bodhi tree. Don't use your own thinking. That's what I'm saying. Don't use your own thinking as the way to guide yourself as to how you think the acceptance of your own atonement is going to look. My thoughts don't mean anything. Lesson 10. Lesson 1, nothing I see means anything. There's only three responses to anything. Black ink all over here. There's only 3 responses to anything. 3 words: yes, wow, and thank you. Let those guide you. Yes, wow, and thank you. My thoughts don't mean anything. Yes. Wow, thank you. It's only your thoughts that are going to get you into trouble. They can't get you out of trouble. But trouble's not a bad thing. The more trouble you have, the more honest you're going to be with your prayers. But I'm not telling you to go and get into trouble. I'm telling you to be more honest. Right? Now, to be more honest is simply to accept Jesus's version of things rather than your own. All right, well, yeah, well, Jesus is kind of calling me a dimwit. It's like, yes, I'm a dimwit. Jesus is calling me a dummy. Yes, I'm a dummy. But Jesus is my loving brother, you know, and the same as an older brother would call any younger brother a dimwit and a dummy. He doesn't really mean it in a condemning way. It's just like trying to point you to something. When he says you have eyes and don't see and ears and don't hear, he's not saying I'm deaf and blind. He's saying there's another way to use my eyes and ears. And if I listen to him, I'll work out what that is. It'll gradually become apparent. But whilst I'm listening to him with the same way I listen now, and whilst I'm looking at him in the same way I'm looking at him now, it's not going to become apparent. It has to be miraculous. It has to be holy. There has to be a whole other thing. When Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this earth, and that's where I'm going, and you guys are going to go there too, it doesn't mean like in the future. It just means it's not yet your time, right? Time isn't this alpha and omega thing. It's not. It's like turn it on its end and it's all boom. It's right here and now. When is that here and now going to be my moment? It can only ever be now. But that's my decision. That's where the power of my decision is my own comes into effect. If it's not going to be now, when's it going to be? In another now tomorrow? Right? That's where my honesty is. Do I want it now? I'm saying I want it now. I'm looking into my thoughts that don't mean anything to tell me that I'm saying that I want it now. Right? Stop saying you want it now because it's obvious you don't. In the moment you truly want it, it'll be given. It's like, no, fuck you, Jesus. I don't want that. What the hell? I just want more money, better sex, and a nicer car. That's it. I don't want to have to work so hard. That's honesty. Denial is when I say, yeah, I want it now, and I don't have it. I guarantee you, in the twinkling of an eye, you'll be changed. In the twinkling of an eye, as soon as you say, I want the memory of God returned to me, and you want that more than you want anything in the world, it's going to happen. Because that's an unconditional invitation, and it has to be accepted unconditionally. Until then, we've got 365 lessons to help us see how dishonest we are. When you really hear this message, it's a message of, oh shit, I'm still in denial. I'm still in denial. I'm still in denial. This is my separation. That's my separation. Right? That's why he says the way is steep and hard and there's few people on it. The gate to hell is wide and everybody's going in. The gate to truth is narrow and not many people choose that path. Because it's a fucking thankless path, really. But once you've accepted that, then it becomes joyous. It's like, hell yeah. I'm glad to find my denial. There's joy in uncovering what I have hidden. That's where it happens. Not in convincing myself that I'm on some sort of spiritual quest, when in actual fact I'm not. So it's like there's an incredible liberty, an incredible freedom that you find in realizing that you're the liar. It's like, oh, I'm the liar. I'm the problem. I'm the one that's getting in my own way, sabotaging all my own best interests. Right? Rather than allowing the universe to simply unfold before me and reveal to me my journey, my path, you know? Like where he says the Holy Spirit goes before you and lays a carpet of golden leaves and whatever that bit is. It's like, I want that. That's what I want, right? But if it's not happening, it's obviously I don't want it. Because God's not holding me to ransom. I am. I'm holding me to ransom. In this tricky little game I play between me and God, where I convince myself that God's dead and I'm the boss. It's like, oh. There's a moment of humility and a moment of swallowing your pride and a moment of all that. And you get out of it by yes, wow, and thank you. If you truly knew that God's will was everything, what wouldn't you say yes, wow, and thank you to? Even if it seems like it was going to lead you into a place of discomfort or danger or whatever. Yes, wow, and thank you. Either God's will is everything or it's not. Now, where do I stand? Yes, wow, and thank you. Tina, read the next one, please. And we'll get to the point. We'll get to the point, Bernadette, you'll be coming at the end of this video, I guarantee it. It'll be the coming of the Lord. Not the coming of Bernadette, but there won't be a Bernadette separate from the coming of the Lord. You get that's what we're actually aiming for anyway, right? The coming of the Lord. It's kind of funny given your circumstance. All right, do the next one, Tina.
Lesson 274.
Ooh.
Exactly. Today belongs to love. Let me not fear. Father, today I would let all things be as you created them, and give your Son the honor due his sinlessness, the love of brother to his brother and his friend. Through this, I am redeemed. Through this, as well, the truth will enter where illusions were. Light will replace all darkness, and your Son will know he is as you created him. A special blessing comes to us today from him who is our Father. Give this day to him, and there will be no fear today, because the day is given unto love.
Good. Kevin, can you read the next one, please?
Lesson 275. God's healing voice protects all things today. Let us today attend the voice of God, which speaks an ancient lesson, no more true today than any other day. Yet has this day been chosen as the time when we will seek and hear and learn and understand. Join me in hearing, for the voice of God tells us of things we cannot understand alone, nor learn apart. It is in this that all things are protected, and in this the healing of the voice of God is found. Your healing voice protects all things today, and so I leave all things to you. I need be anxious over nothing, for your voice will tell me what to do and where to go, to whom to speak, and what to say to him, what thoughts to think, what words to give the world. The safety that I bring is given me. Father, your voice protects all things through me.
Good. Joe, would you like to read the next one, please?
Lesson 276. The word of God is given me to speak. What is the word of God? My son is pure and holy as myself. And thus did God become the Father of the Son he loves. For thus was he created this world. His Son did not create with him, because in this his Son was born. Let us accept his fatherhood and all it has given us. Deny we were created in his love, and we deny ourselves. To be unsure of who we are, of who our Father is, and for what purpose we have come. And yet we need but to acknowledge him who gave us his word to us in our creation, to remember him, and so recall ourselves. Father, your word is mine, and it is this that I would speak to all my brothers who are given me to cherish as my own, as I am loved and blessed and saved by you.
Beautiful. Father, your word is mine, and it is this that I would speak to all my brothers who are given me to cherish as my own. I'm loved and blessed and saved by you. Bernadette, you're cherished. I cherish you. You're my brother, not that body, not that thing. I cherish you as my brother in Christ. That's everybody. There's a funny thing I was reading something the other day. It wasn't relative. Well, it was relative, but it wasn't from the course. And they used the word citadel in there. And I had a profound attraction to that word, I guess, because it's not a word you come across in daily life much, citadel. And it drew me in. I didn't have any. I mean, when I was in Europe, I went to a lot of monasteries and what do you call them? Oh, the cathedrals and stuff like that. But the citadel is the place within the cathedral, you know, like it's that place of inner sanctum, sort of where the altar is, and you know, at least that's my interpretation of it. I mean, I didn't Google the meaning of citadel, but that total place, and it's like all those, it's like cherished. I don't use the word cherished in my daily life at all, I don't think. But it's something that I feel. I cherish something. Somebody made me a bowl of custard the other day and put it in the fridge. And it's like, man, I cherished that. That was something that nobody makes me a bowl of custard and puts it in my fridge. Thank you, Joe. But it's like, I totally cherished it. It was like, wow, this is something somebody's gone to the effort to make for me and to put in the fridge. And it's like incredible, you know, and I enjoyed that custard for 3 or 4 days, just eating that bowl of custard. But I cherished it. How much more then would I cherish my brothers in Christ than a bowl of custard, who we join together to hear God's word spoken and to share these words? But I've got to live from these words. I've got to live from this experience of the Christ in me, not from the level where the bowl of custard is. The bowl of custard is the result. The bowl of custard is the effect of being cherished. I felt cherished, and I cherished in return. But it's like that word, that the notions and the things that it conjures up, it's like, they're kind of like holy words, you know. We don't use them in our daily life. You know? Self-nurturing, that's a kind of a common one in healing circles. You know, we like to nurture ourselves, especially you women, you bath bombs and whatever. I don't know what you do, but self-nurturing, you know, things like that. Guys, we don't self-nurture. We don't think about these sorts of things. We sort of charge ahead at everything, and you know, we leave it to you women folk to pick up the pieces for us. But there's a connection point, you know, like this. To cherish as my own, all my brothers. I would speak to all my brothers who are given me to cherish as my own. You know, I look on this page and there's you guys and everyone else that I see. And it takes me to that place in my mind where before time began, you know, it's thinking in the spheres, thinking celestially. We have a sign on our property. It's a bit worn out now. It's an old chalk sign. It says, congratulations, you made it. This is the place where we agreed to meet before time began, to begin to remember who we truly are. That's what this meeting is. That's what this Zoom is. We're beginning to remember who we truly are to each other. And put aside all our children's games. Put aside all our nonsense and be fully present with each other, where in this moment we can cherish each other. Do I walk the world with that cherish in my heart? Sometimes. Sometimes I do, when I have these moments of being reminded about it. Sometimes I'm caught up in the ways of the world. But I take my time and I give my minutes to and hours to Jesus as he directs through my lessons, and hopefully I remember day to day that I'm cherished by my brothers as I cherish them. And it seems to be we have this thing called a Zoom class or a Zoom meeting or whatever, where we're remembering how important that is and nothing else is important. Because it is only the word of God that I would hear today and give today, no matter how that looks. Nothing exists. That's the word of God today. Nothing exists. This is all not true. This is all a fabrication, all an illusion. The truth of me is beyond this entirely, in the spheres, beyond the world that Jesus accepted atonement for me. So I can sit back and relax and just enjoy the cherish that I have. I don't even know if that's the right context, but enjoy how much I cherish everything, like a child. That place, that I don't even want to call it a holy place, but that place where it's like holy. Holy is a term that sounds great, but until you actually experience holy, how do I connect with that in a relevant way? Holy. I can hear a priest talk about it. I can watch movies about holy places and holy people and holy practices and blah, 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 blah. But cherish is something I have a memory of. Cherish is something that means something and actually begins to bring me a little inkling of how it is that God loves me and all the world. You know, just a little tiny inkling. I cherish something. What's that parable, Tina, about the birds? You know, the birds of the field. They're fed and they're clothed, or the flowers of the wild. How much more are you? You know. Father, your word is mine, and it is this that I would speak to all my brothers who are given me to cherish as my own, and I am loved and blessed and saved by you. But that, you know, this is the thing, Bernadette. It'll drop in for you when it drops in. That word cherish just dropped in for me. It's like it's just slapping me in the face right now. Cherished. Yeah. Fran, slapping her on both sides. It's got one.
Cherish. No slap.
Cherish. Marielle, could you read the next one? 277.
That's Angela.
Angela.
That's Angela. Marielle is Angela.
Oh, yeah, but it says Marielle on here.
Yeah, but it's Angela.
Okay, well, either or. I'm Brian.
Sorry, what number are we on?
277.
Lesson 277. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Your son is free, my father. Let me not imagine I have been bound him with the laws I made to rule the body. He is not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. He is not changed by what is changeable. He is not slave to any laws of mine. He is as you created him, because he knows no laws except the law of love. Let us not worship idols, nor believe in any law. Let us not worship idols, nor believe any law idolatry would make to hide the freedom of the Son of God. He is not bound except by his beliefs. Yet what he is far beyond his faith in slavery or freedom. He is free because he is his Father's Son, and he cannot be bound unless God's truth can lie, and God can will that he deceive himself. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made.
And every thought in the mind, in the conscious mind, is an attempt to do just that, including your spiritual ones, including Course in Miracles ones. That part of the mind, we call it ego mind, that part of the mind that's attempting to verify the body again and again and again, will even use this teaching to try and do that. And I'm sure everybody's seen examples of, and I don't want to sound judgmental here, but Christian evangelism, where it's like, if you don't believe what we tell you, you're going to hell. And it's like the Bible is actually used as a weapon rather than as a tool of release and all this sort of stuff. It's like, let me not bind your Son with laws I made. All of my thoughts are structured meticulously to verify laws that I've made regarding what I think I am. And to me, they're laws until finally they're challenged. And I see that those laws actually aren't set in stone. They're arbitrary and they can be changed. If they can be changed, then perhaps there's a way that I can change them so that they begin to serve my greater good rather than impede it. But I first have to realize that what I thought was my greater good isn't actually my greater good. My greater good is to accept God's will for me, which is perfect happiness. It doesn't matter how it looks on the surface. That's what you have to understand. It's like it doesn't matter what you do. You could adventure around the world. You could open a brothel. You could bloody sit on a mountaintop eating bark and snow. It doesn't matter. The physical manifestation of your expression does not matter. It's in your mind. Where am I in here? When I'm free in my mind, it doesn't matter what I do in the world. Because I've come to an acceptance of the fact that no matter what I seem to do, I'm playing a part that's perfectly orchestrated for me. It plays out perfectly. There is no will but God's. All I need to do is be true to myself. As above, so below. But if I'm kidding myself, if I'm trying to be spiritual or trying to be holy, then I'm not being true to myself. Well, maybe I am, but chances are I'm not. Chances are that I'm just someone who's found a book, picked it up and gone, oh, this is how I have to be now. Which denies my true nature of being someone who's attempting to bind God's Son with laws that I've made. So no, let me be the denial and let God be the truth. That way I'm not going to trust any of my own thinking. Because as soon as I trust my own thinking, and as soon as I look at the meaning I've given my own thinking and think that it's valid, I'm forgetting completely the experience I find myself in, which is seemingly in a body, in a world that represents what? Separation. And that's all it's going to represent. It's never going to represent heaven on earth. Heaven on earth is my state of mind that I will attain and I will foster once I accept that. It's entirely possible to walk through a battlefield and be completely peaceful about it. It's entirely possible to sit in prison and feel completely liberated, because it's in the mind, not in the physical circumstances. It's like John was rotting away in jail after John the Baptist, who was beheaded finally by Elizabeth, or at Elizabeth's request. But he was in jail. If it's thy will, God, this is where I'll be. He didn't want to be there, but still he accepted it. And when they chopped off his head, he was like, fuck yeah, cool beans. No, I think that's the story. Tina might know. That's how I remember.
First he questioned Christ.
Oh yeah,
First
yeah.
he was like,
You have to go through that. Yeah,
yeah, you got to
first
do
he
that.
had his moment of doubt and pain. But anyway, that's like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Thy will be done, Lord. I don't want to do this. Let this cup pass from me to someone else. But if it is thy will, I'll do it. And then they arrest him the next day. So, who hasn't done one? Doug, are you awake there? You look pretty comfy. Doug, the resting Christ. 278.
Yes.
Sorry to disturb your holy slumber.
No, I've been listening and
Denial.
if I am bound, my Father is not free. If I accept that I'm prisoner within a body, in a world in which all things that seem to live appear to die, then is my Father prisoner with me. And this do I believe when I maintain the laws the world obeys. Must I obey the frailties and the sins which I perceive are real and cannot be escaped? If I am bound in any way, I do not know my Father or myself, and I'm lost to all reality, for truth is free, and what is bound is not part of truth. Father, I ask for nothing but the truth. I've had many foolish thoughts about myself and my creation, and I brought a dream of fear into my mind. Today I would not dream. I choose the way to you instead of madness and instead of fear. For truth is safe, and only love is sure.
Good. Has everybody done one? Yeah. Tina, are you there? Oh, Tina's disappeared. Tina, have you read one? You want to do 279 if you're there? Oh. You disappeared for a second. There was
Just for a second. I have read, but I'll read 279.
all
What's
right.
that?
Who hasn't done?
I think
Did you do
everyone.
one? Frank can do you do 279. Frank can do 280. How's that
All
sound?
right, cool. Sounds good to me.
All right.
All
Did
right.
Joanne?
Joanne's sound is not great, so
Oh, okay.
your microphone's. Are you on a phone?
No, iPad.
iPad. It's a bit kind of like. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think reception's great up here, guys. Sorry.
No, you're good.
all
You're good.
Go, Tina, and then Fran.
All right, lesson 279.
And then we'll get back to Bernadette.
Creation's freedom promises my own. Creation's freedom promises my own.
Bernadette, have you read one of these? Oh, okay.
Should she read this one?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Bernadette, go ahead. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Creation's freedom promises my own. The end of dreams is promised to me because God's Son is not abandoned by his love. Only in dreams is there a time when he appears to be in prison and awaits a future freedom, if it be at all. Yet in reality, his dreams are gone, with truth established in their place. And now his freedom he is already. Should I wait in chains which have been severed for release, when God has offered me freedom now? I will accept your promise today and give my faith to them. My Father loves the Son whom he created as his own. Would you withhold the gift you gave to me?
Fran.
What limits can I lay upon God's Son, whom God created limitless, is free? I can invent imprisonment for him, but only in illusions, not in truth. No thought of God has left its Father's mind. No thought of God is limited at all. No thought of God but is forever pure. Can I lay limits on the Son of God, whose Father willed that he be limitless and like himself in freedom and in love? Can I lay limits on the Son of God, whose Father willed that he be limitless? Today, let me give honor to your Son, for thus alone I find the way to you. Father, I lay no limits on the Son you love, and you created limitless. The honor that I give to him is yours, and what is yours belongs to me as well.
Good. All right. It's good. So the idea of healing, I'm healing the idea, or I'm healing the belief wherein I think I'm separate from God. That's all I'm healing. Right? And I do that through the acceptance of the atonement, acceptance of at-one-ment, which means I'm not separate from God. Right? If God is everything, how can I possibly be separate? It's a paradox. I can't heal the paradox. I can't do anything about the paradox in my own mind, because that's where the paradox seems to exist. In my own mind. And it's cleverly disguised by all my thoughts. But my mind is capable of reason. My mind is capable of looking at a situation, and even if I come up against the paradox, which is where I want to be, by the way, I don't want to be away from it. I want to be wedged right up tight in there, so I've got nowhere to wriggle, right? Even though my mind is capable of perceiving and comprehending the nature of a paradox in which I seem to be caught, that's not the end of the story. I'm also entitled to miracles. But I need to find the paradox in my own experience. That's what I'm here for. That's where I'm looking at joining with the Holy Spirit. Because that's a place where I run out and the Holy Spirit begins. The paradox is a place where I can go no further, but there is one who is beyond limits. Okay. So when I look at my world, it's like anything that disturbs my peace of mind in this world. Right? So I set my goal as perfect inner peace. I pick up the Course in Miracles, or I pick up the Bodhisattva, or I pick up whatever I'm using, and I set my goal as perfect inner peace. Anything that disturbs that sense of inner peace, even the slightest little side, Jesus is, right, is opportunity to recognize that I'm right up there in the paradox. I'm right up against the limit of my consciousness. It's like submariners trapped in a submarine stuck at the bottom of the ocean. They're right up against the outside, tapping, tapping, tapping. We're in here, we're in here. And Jesus comes, he's the rescue. He comes on the other side and he taps back. I'm here, I'm here. And then he moves along a bit until he gets to the hatch. And the guys inside, it's all dark. The lights are out. They have to follow Jesus's tappings to get to the hatch, and then they can get out. Right? That's the same thing we're doing here. Exactly the same thing. We're trapped in this bubble, let's say, or an idea of a bubble. Now, the paradox is I'm not really trapped. Not really. The dream, it's just an illusion, right? But I have to accept it where I find it. I have to accept myself where I find my feet. I find myself seemingly in a world of pain, suffering, and death, right? Let me not try to escape that through concepts, Bernadette. Let me not try to get out of that by using spiritual teachings. Let me apply those teachings, right? There's no point replacing my thoughts with a bunch of spiritual thoughts. All I'm doing is taking out one bunch of apples and putting in another bunch of apples. I'm taking red ones out and putting green ones in. I don't want any apples. I want my basket emptied out completely, right? Get out all the apples out of there, out of my cart. Tip them all out. So I'm always up against the paradox. So I'm walking around and I'm in my spiritual mode where I'm peaceful, and I'm telling myself, right, my goal today is inner peace. And then somebody comes along or some situation shows up that pisses me off or upsets me about something, and it's going to, and I'm going to let it. Of course I'm going to let it. I'm not going to try and be holy and pretend it doesn't upset me. No, it fucking upsets me. It gives me the shits. I hate this world, right? I can't stand this crap. I walk out my door and there's all sorts of stuff out there I don't really like or agree with, right? I let it affect me because that's where I can be honest. No, it does affect me. It upsets me. I am an alcoholic. Finally, I can admit to my pain. Until I can admit to my pain, I cannot find the honesty for prayer. And prayer is what crosses the barrier between time and space, and it's the communication device between the creator and the created. Right? I'm not aware of that place of transition because I've designed myself to live within a point of limitation. And the limitation is specifically to cut me off from God and convince me that I'm separate, pardon me. Right? So I'm learning again and again and again to come up against that threshold, to come up against that point of honesty in my own experience of myself where I need a miracle again and again and again. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to change anything, but I can change the way that I see it. I can change the way I think about it. I can learn to see it as the school of life rather than something that I feel I have to, manifest victimhood over or something. I'm never a victim. I'm never at the bequest of somebody else. Everything that happens to me is what I want. I want this to happen, or it wouldn't be happening. God's will is perfect. God's will for me is perfect happiness. If I choose to experience that through pain, suffering, and death, so be it. That's how it'll be until I choose to change my mind. But I can't change my mind until I realize what's actually going on in my mind. The true story behind the physical part that I see. What's the background here? What's the backstory that's running back here somewhere that I'm unaware of, that's producing these effects that I am aware of? That's where I need to find myself. Oh, I still believe that I'm separate from God in this situation because this situation causes me upset to my peace of mind. Therefore, let me choose to address the idea of separation in this situation, manifesting as this whatever it is, rather than try to fix this whatever it is. Because I'll be running around fixing this whatever it is for millions of years. Whereas the miracle collapses time now. Right? The miracle substitutes for learning that may have taken thousands of years, Jesus says in the Course. I don't have thousands of years. I'm done with it. I'm done with this stupid world and its stupid ways and its stupid leaders and stupid people and stupid me. Most of all, stupid me. Right? I'm done with it. I've had enough. I want something else. I don't care what the something else is, just something else that's nothing to do with the thoughts in my head. That'd be great. And then we'll deal with that when that shows up. But you got to find yourself in the paradox. You've got to find yourself in that inescapable place where all of a sudden I can't do anything about it. I'm an alcoholic. I can't do anything about it. I'm a drug addict. I can't do anything about it. I need a miracle. Right? We have this sort of propensity to live on the lower level of life, and we forget all about the power of our higher mind. It's not some sort of holy thing. It's our mind. It's my mind. It's the power of my mind. I'm experiencing myself seemingly trapped in this lower order level of experience, which is what I wanted. And I forgot where the out door is, where the exit door is. It's like, oh shit, how did I get in here? Right? If there even is a here. There's not really a here, but it doesn't do any good to try. You'll just go crazy trying to work it out that way. I seem to be here, but there's no here. There's the paradox again. You can't work out the paradox. You'll just end up in the nut house. You need a miracle. You need something else in your own thinking. You need another point of reference. So when you get to the paradox of the situation you find yourself in, you have another reference for it. Oh, that's right. I must become less so that he becomes more. spiritual practice is really a way of, well, everybody knows, hopefully now, it's like it's really the death of the ego. It's like I'm allowing myself to die gracefully so that I can be reborn as the truth of me. It's not even really reborn, but so I can remember the truth of me and be that. In the moment you wake up, you'll cease to exist here, never having been, and you'll find yourself as you truly are, as spirit, on the other side of the veil. It's like those virtual, you know, those goggles, and the kids all put them on and they play their games and they think they're actually in the game. And it's like, Tina has them, you know, and then your mother can be calling you for dinner and come on. And the kids, and they're so immersed in their experience, they can't even hear their mother. She could be like yelling in their ear and all they're doing is playing virtual whatever. It's the same thing. Jesus is calling you for dinner and you're just like, hang on, I haven't been over in this section. Hang on, I've just got to do this. I've just got to sell my goods in the marketplace. It's like, all right, well, you're going to miss out on dinner. We'll come back around tomorrow and invite you to dinner again. That's kind of the same thing. I should keep my finger on my nose here, but I'm always in a place where the opportunity or the call to awaken is present in me if I'm present with it, which is why remembering my purpose in any given situation is important, which is why I need mind training. Otherwise, I'm just going to fall back into judgment. And it's easy to do, and we all do it, and we don't want to judge ourselves for doing it. Otherwise, we're judging our judgments and we're doubly judged. Then I need a miracle to even want a miracle. So it's like, all right, yep, I'm a judgmental, condemning arsehole, you know, whatever it is. It's like, let me get to the bottom. I'm a piece of shit. It's like the Hindus say, I'm lower than the shit that falls from the arse of the snake. You know? The Sufis say I'm blameworthy, because the blameworthy, it sounds great, but until you realize that you're responsible for everybody's pain. It's not someone else's pain I'm seeing. It's my own pain I'm denying and projecting out there onto the world. But you can't, the Buddhism talks about total humility, you know, like you have to reach that place of total humility before you can start your journey, before you can start your path. You have to realize that you are the problem. I'm getting in my own way here. I'm saying one thing, but really I mean another. I'm saying I want to give up sex, or I'm saying I want to transcend this so I can have an experience, but I don't really want to. I'm just substituting sex with not sex. It's the same thing. I was going to tell you that funny story, but I think it's funny, about Tom Cruise. So one of my partners some years ago had a thing for Tom Cruise, right? Like a sexual thing. And so as a I don't know if you'd call it a gift or a prank or whatever, one Valentine's Day, I got a big paper bag that fit over my head, and I printed out a picture of Tom Cruise's face and I stuck it on the front and cut out 2 little holes like in Tom Cruise. It's like it was the trigger, you know, because I knew she was closing her eyes and thinking of Tom Cruise. we had that conversation. But the thing was, I thought it would be cool, or I thought it would be a thing, you know, it would be a thing. But I actually got really embarrassed putting the bag over my head. Like, it really brought up a lot of stuff for me, you know, like I thought I was doing her a really nice thing, and she would either laugh or she'd say, take that silly bag off your head or something. But it actually brought a lot of shit up for me. It brought up a lot of unworthiness, and it brought up a lot of, you know, all sorts of stuff. So you never know what anything's for. You know, you never know. You just never know what's contained behind anything. So you just got to be yourself. You just got to be the doofus that you are, and you know, like, seriously. Don't try to be holy, Bernadette. Don't try to be like, you know what I'm saying? It's not about being Mother Teresa. It's about being yourself. Anyway, any questions? Joe, any questions? Kevin? Doug? Marielle, who's not really Marielle? Tina? Fran? We're all good? That's it? We're done?
I had a question.
I knew you did.
So, great sadness, and then there's great joy. So these moments I'm spending now during the day of feeling complete joy, complete love, complete unity. I feel Christ with me. I find these moments where it dawns on my mind and I am completely connected, complete gratitude. And then there's complete disunity and separation and thoughts. And then I forgive. I put it all out there. Don't hide anything. Give it all to Jesus. And then I reconnect again and I feel it, all that burden completely gone. So it seems that I'm going in and out of the darkness and the light, bringing this darkness to the light. And I just really want this this purification to be over. I'm ready for a complete light. And now I know I'm just projecting outward because it can happen right now. When you were talking earlier, when you asked me if I was sleeping, just prior to that, I disappeared into the light and I just was so happy to be with everybody. And I felt such love. I had no thoughts and I just was looking at this pure light around everybody. That's all I wanted to say.
Is there a question in there?
Probably not.
Okay.
Unless you can find one.
Well, not really. I mean, it sounds perfect that like you do go in and out of it, and sometimes it's thick and fast, and sometimes it seems to be more graceful and
yeah.
I mean, there was a period in my transformation early on where I remember there was a kind of a lull. Nothing seemed to be happening and everybody else seemed to be having experiences and stuff was going on for them in meditation and everyone was talking about things. And I remember saying to Jesus, come on, Jesus, bring it on. I want more. I want to get through this, whatever. And then the next thing, like 3 days later, I was in the thick of it. And it was just like, holy shit, be careful what you ask for. So there's a divineness in surrendering to the way things are. If your transformation seems to be, it's like where Jesus says your transformation will keep pace with you. If it seems to be up and down and up and down and up and down, so be it. Accept it because God, it's like Jesus knows what you can handle better than you do. Like, yep, absolutely. This is obviously how it's meant to be for me right now. It's like my acceptance of it will bring me to a point where my want of it to be over and my need of it, and wants and needs are all based in time, are going to be seen by me for what they are as being completely illusory and actually denial of the fact that it is now when it's done.
Yeah.
I can't want something and accept it at the same time. It's one or the other. Yeah. When I want something to be over, when I want this process to be done, I'm still coming from want.
No, we talked about that last week.
Right, exactly.
It's
but
just
you kind of have to see it sometimes. It's like when we started this and I said you can't hear it and you can't see it. Sometimes you got to hear it like 10 times and you realize, holy shit, I'm doing the same thing again in a slightly different form. I need a miracle, right? Yeah. But it's only in a place where you see it that you really recognize the necessity for the miracle.
Yeah.
Because mostly we live our lives in denial until we're actually kind of forced to look at what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for this book, you wouldn't have any reference point for what you were doing in your own thinking. You would just try to adopt a better way of thinking, but you would still be within the framework of the mind that, you know, has those thoughts. That's why the power of positive thinking and all that shit, it doesn't work.
No.
Everybody gets caught up in it and there's a fervor with it and everything like that. It's like religiosity. You know, so many people find religion and find all that sort of stuff. And it's like, hallelujah, I found something else. It's better than what I had before. And they want to proselytize it and tell everybody, and this is what you should be doing, until finally some sort of maturation occurs in their own thinking. And they're like, oh, hang on a minute. How long am I going to keep this up? You can't see yourself until you see yourself, you know, and everything's a stage. It's like the caterpillar doesn't go into the chrysalis knowing it's going to be a butterfly. It just knows it's got to build a chrysalis around itself and doesn't know anything. You know, a baby in the womb has no clue what the hell's going to happen once it exits the womb. It doesn't even know there's a womb to exit. It's like, in that you're innocent, Doug. You don't know nothing. That might seem like an insult to your ego, but like really, it's like that's your release. It's like, oh, thank God I don't know anything.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know nothing. When Jesus tells me something, I may not agree with it, I may not understand, but I'm just going to take it on board that he's got a better view of things than I do, and he probably knows me better than I know myself. So I'll just accept it on face value and see where it fits in my own journey when it's time for it to fit in. Until then, other things might have to come around in the orchestration of stuff so that I can learn what it is I need to learn to pave the way for what Jesus is telling me is about to happen.
All right. Yeah.
Tina's on the cusp of revelation. She's sort of sitting at a place where she's umming and ahhing about it in her own thinking, pointing at it, and won't quite let herself have it yet, but it's occurring nonetheless, right? She's probably the closest in this group to revelation, maybe Bernadette, I don't know, but you two guys, actually, the both of you, incredibly close. I can feel it in my waters. It's like when Jesus says, I'm aware of the revelation readiness of all my brothers everywhere. It's like when you recognize the self, when you realize true self, you also join in that because you automatically become part of the call. You become part of the call to awaken because your purpose and the goal of your purposefulness have come together. There's nothing outside of your sphere of awareness. It's like when I sit with guys, I know that they're either years off having a miraculous occurrence or awakening, or, you know, it's like you guys would also be able to get an inkling into that, right? It's like you're not separate. The power of your mind isn't something that you're going to reacquire when this is over or when you have a revelatory moment. It's something you're learning to reconnect with now. It's like you're rekindling a relationship that you threw away. I'm rekindling my relationship with the universe. And as I begin to tap into it, even incrementally, even day to day, even through doing these lessons, things begin to occur in my consciousness that I tell myself I can't explain it, but somewhere in my mind, I know what it is perfectly well, because I am one with all things. There's nothing that I'm not aware of. I've just forgotten. It's not like you don't have the memory of God in you. You've just forgotten it. But Jesus has kept it safe for you. And, you know, in the moment where you're willing to remember, he'll give it back to you. It's like an elder brother who's, you know, my mother, my daughter's grandmother, gave my daughter, when she was about 4 or 5 years old, a set of very expensive solid gold earrings when she first got her ears pierced. And I remember telling my mum, I said, Mum, she's going to lose those in a week. Like, you should have just got her some cheap ones, you know, whatever. And she's like, nah, I wanted her to have them. And for a while, I held on to those earrings for Trinity, and I told her, you can only wear them on special occasions when we go out. You know, it's like Jesus. I'm going to hang on to this memory for you so you can experience what it's like to have separation, and then I'll give it back to you. But at first, I'm just going to give it back to you a little bit, because it'll fuck you up if you get the whole thing and you're not ready for it. It's like revelation is your right, but purification is necessary first. Oh, look at that painting in Joanne's. That's funny. Oh, no, that's in my house, of course. I was just going to say I have that exact same painting somewhere. That's funny. So it's like the memory of God is in everyone and exists in you. And at some point in your transition, you did recover it and you did awaken to it, right? When that is, Jesus said it's only time that stands between what he knows and what you know, what he knows now and what you know in time. Time is the only consideration, and the miracle comes so that you can collapse time. So we're learning to become miracle-minded. We're not learning to work it out for ourselves. We're not learning to depend on our own thinking about how to proceed in regard to the particulars of our physical sojourn. I need a miracle every day. I need a miracle every moment, every now. I'm going to live in faith and let everything be miraculous. Most of the time, I forget that. Most of the time, the world is too strong, which is why this is a course in joining together in purpose, reminding each other what we're truly about and not judging each other for when we forget. We have a saying, we have a thing that we say here in Australia about taking the piss. You guys have that? Take the piss? It means to make fun of, right? We take the piss of someone or something. It means to make fun of the situation, to bring light to the situation. Right? To make fun of it, make it not so serious, and we take the piss out of each other. Right? It's the same thing. It's the same that siblings do. We're all siblings. We're all like, come on, like taking the piss, trying not to take things so seriously. But sometimes we forget and we take it seriously. We forget that it's just a dream. It's just an illusion. And then we let go. When we take things seriously, things start to become concretized in our associations within ourselves, and we start to go within and down and become these sort of like withdrawn, like the whole Course in Miracles is just learning to laugh at yourself. That's it. That's the whole thing. I'm learning to laugh at myself. To not take myself seriously. I'm the joke. I'm the joke. I'm the brunt of the joke, the punchline. I'm all of it. I'm the, and that's how I have to see myself all the time. Not always easy. Sometimes there's a great, it's not. Sometimes you want to justify what I want to justify what I think I am as this body and Course in Miracles teacher or some other shit, None of that matters. We're just remembering that together and allowing that remembering to extend subconsciously, consciously, however, out through the permeation of the matrix, out through the permeation of the dream, so that in the times when everything seems to be hitting the fan, the shit hits the fan. That's another thing we say here. Do you have that saying, Tina? The shit hits the fan. So when the shit hits the fan, I'm going to be that person that's laughing. It's like at my grandmother's funeral. I couldn't stop laughing. I had to excuse myself from the damn funeral. I did not expect to be laughing at the funeral. That was the last thing I expected. I loved my grandmother and I wanted to be reverent and, respectful at her final grand hurrah. And I started sniggering away like this is actually probably 6 months after my illumination. I couldn't stop laughing anyway, but I was trying to keep it together, straight face, and I had to go outside. Everybody's up on the pulpit doing their eulogies and their stuff, and I'm like laughing out loud. My mother tells me, get out, go outside if you can't just think. And I went outside and there's my uncle smoking a cigarette. He couldn't deal with it. He's like on his terms and I couldn't deal with it on my terms. But we're
At my
laughing.
mom's too.
You did?
Yeah,
Right.
me and my brothers. Yeah. It was just all so ridiculous.
Right. It's so ridiculous, isn't it? But it's not until you realize it, it's like, damn, I don't believe in this anymore. I don't believe in this stuff. I don't believe in, what am I doing? I'm farewelling the body. I'm laying the body to rest. Like Jesus says, let the dead bury the dead. It's like whoever it is you came here to bury, they're not even there. They're not even there. They're long gone. It's a funny thing. But we have all these rituals. We have all these practices and things that we persist. It's like time and space is so slow to change when you look at the big picture of the world. It's slow to all these rituals and traditions that we persist in. It's like I've seen in America now, they're pulling down statues to ancient figures, that did stuff, and like destroying old symbolic references for whatever in one time period in time that would have been seen as a good reason to put a statue. And in today's marketplace, fuck no, we don't want that shit, But look how long it takes for anything to change. Where does it go from here? Who knows? Maybe they'll put them all back up again later. They'll realize, well, we didn't really
No,
need to
fuck
pull it all
no.
down.
The old bastard statues needed to come down.
We'll put that on a t-shirt. Those old bastard statues, they need to come down. But it's like the idea of addressing it in time and space, Fran, right? The idea of pulling down the statue or not pulling down the statue. Everything is mind. It's just as much verification of the reason the statue is there as not. Maybe in a few generations, people will be like, I wonder what used to be there, and they'll have no reference for it. But right here and now, how does that help to pull the statue down? It doesn't. It might make me feel better.
That's the whole thing. It's just so surface. It's such bullshit.
Right, it's on the surface.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're not really doing anything to change.
Exactly. And those that are pulling the statue down are the reverse antithesis of the reason that the statue is there in the first place. But they won't want to hear that because in your own mind, you think you're actually doing something. You think you're in a world where things are happening, and you're not. That's the illusion. That's the confusion of it all. I'm not here. I'm in eternity dreaming this whole thing. In a dream of opposites. The statue's there representing this. I represent the opposite of that. But you don't realize that by representing the opposite of it, you actually verify what it is and make it real and perpetuate that yin yang. And in your next lifetime, you're going to come around, you're going to represent the statue again. It's like, holy shit, let me let go of all my ideas about statues and what they represent and simply open up to the love of God now.
Tina, were you Robert E. Lee last lifetime?
I have no idea.
I guess so, because I'm about this life this time. So
I was like, oh, you are?
no, not anymore. But those things are have been confronting.
I had that whole thing here too. I went out and protested the deforestation and tied myself to trees when I was 20, and did all that. So, you got to stand up for something in the world. You got to represent something.
I want to be free.
Realize that it's all false.
I want to be free.
Well, you can't want to be free. You are free.
There you go. Right on.
Right. I'm free. Wanting to be free is like Doug wanting to be over his experience of transformation.
Exactly.
You're already over it. It's already done. I'm just remembering how I woke up. The dream's already over. How long do I want to take to recognize it? That's up to me. Good. Anything else? Kevin, you're good? Kev's good. Joe's good. Bernadette? Why isn't anyone saying no? Fran?
I just want to kind of underline the, with my pen.
I know. The story was explained to me about that.
I'm going to finish.
Oh, go on.
The yes, wow, thank you thing.
Yep.
I have just had these moments of wow. Oh, that really can happen in an instant. That can really disappear. I don't know how else to say it, but I'm grateful for that. That's all.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, wow, and thank you. So when we had I've got to try and rack my brains here for a reference, because I probably don't have it anymore. No, I can't think when it was. But I remember Ted did a teaching about, we used to have, like, so some days there would be 70 or 80 people right in the room. It'd be packed. And there'd be people standing around the back. There wasn't enough chairs and all that sort of stuff. And Ted would be teaching. And there would be some people that would bring their books to class, and they'd be, like, Ted would read a lesson, they'd be underlining and they'd be doing the whole thing like that. And so they could go back and Ted would make comment on things. So they would underline the things that he made comment on, and they'd go back and they would talk about it later, right? Which, if you imagine, right, try to put yourself in this scenario, close your eyes for a second if you want to. If you imagine 2,000 odd years ago, same message. Someone's going. Oh, you off, Doug? All right. So 2,000 years ago, Jesus is offering the same message on the Mount of Olives, or whatever it is that we're hearing today, right? Or was it Mount Sinai? No, that was Moses. So anyway, there's no pens, there's no paper, there's nothing to underline. He simply says, listen, right? Now, the mind that is attempting to underline, to study, to pinpoint, to recapture perhaps in the future something that was said today, blah, 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 all of that is the mind that is in denial. It's not the mind that is standing there listening to Jesus, right? Now, there's a difference, and this is where it gets to listening and hearing, right? Listening with a completely open mind is a mind that doesn't stop to question what's being said, or doesn't stop to reference what's being said. It stays open in the action of listening right to the end, because the message that's being delivered isn't of words. The words are nothing, they're symbols, right? They're twice removed from reality. The message that Jesus is talking about has nothing to do with the words that he's using. Attempting to underline the words and understand the words is pointless. The message of Jesus, when he stood on the mountain and said, listen, and then he started speaking the Sermon on the Mount, it's what those words represent that matters. And you have that moment to hear it. That moment. If my mind stops listening to make judgment or consideration or anything about what I think I'm hearing, what Jesus is saying, what does that mean? I better ask him about that later. whatever, then I'm not listening. I'm caught up in my own thinking again. And automatically I'm blocking myself from hearing the message, because the message is a frequency. The message is a vibration. It comes from an experience that Jesus has of truth, or Buddha has of truth, or Krishna has of truth, right? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear that frequency. So when I tell you guys nothing exists, that message, you can back and forth it in your mind, ping pong. What does he mean by that? Nothing exists. I seem to exist. What do you mean? Is nothing something that exists also? But you can get caught up in that forever. Nothing exists. Let it in. Right? It comes from a divine source. It's the first direct message I heard from God, in the Godhead, in the non-temporal place. I don't know how to talk about it. Right? It does the work itself. The message does the work itself. It's like a key in a lock. I'm standing there. Jesus is offering me the key verbally. It's not the words. It's what they represent. It's where those words are coming from and what their purpose is that I have to hear. I don't hear anything with these ears. I hear it with my heart. I hear it with my heart and my mind joined together as one. I have nothing to say about it. There's no way I can try and reiterate it or headline it or line it out for later for future reference, because that's not what it's for.
Okay. It wasn't a future reference for me. They were words that symbolized an experience.
Don't defend yourself, Fran.
Huh?
Don't defend yourself. You don't need to defend yourself.
Okay, I don't. I guess I'm just like right now.
Right.
It's
Right.
like
be that right now rather than defend yourself, okay?
yeah, okay. Because I
Be that. Because that's
feel like
where the
you're
honesty
talking
is.
at me, and I
Good. Feel like that. Feel like that then. Experience what it is to feel like that.
yeah, it's really boring. So I'll just let it be.
Good. Right. Boring is a way you defend yourself.
Could be.
Absolutely. Trust me, I know it. I'm as boring as fuck. Right? It's the same as Bernadette, except she's learned not to defend herself. Right? All of that stuff, it doesn't matter what the reason. Right? I can only listen or I can hear. That's the two things. They're different. You have ears to hear, but don't, you have ears to listen and you do not hear. That's what that means. The message is a transition. It's like Morse code. I need help now. Let me write that down. No, he needs help now. Right? I'm not going to write it down. I'm not going to see what it means later. It means I need help now. I'm hearing that message now. That's the only opportunity I have. Everything else on the physical level that I attempt to do with the message is the denial of the message. Tina hears that. Good. I can't do anything with it. As soon as I break in my listening to underline something, and I sort of kid myself that I'm still listening on the other, out of the other ear while I'm doing something here, that's not it. Right? It's a total thing. If you were at the Sermon on the Mount, you had one chance to hear everything he said. You better damn pay attention, because he's gone tomorrow. He's off around the hills to Galilee. You got one chance, one moment, and that's all we have. We have this one moment. Yes or no? That's all it is. Yes or no? I either want it or I don't. And I'm not picking on you, Fran, for right. It's just a helpful example, because that's what consciousness does with everything.
I hear what you're saying. I guess
Right.
I hear what you're saying, but it just seems so separate from what I just shared. And I just,
Right. But where is this? Where is
I guess I don't want to. It's like you were checking in with us, and I just said that, and then it went off there, and it's like,
right.
Ah.
But answer this. You just said to me, it seems so separate from what I just shared. right?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah, I was, yeah,
Why?
I don't.
No, no, no,
yeah.
no, no, no. Don't justify.
Go ahead,
Don't
go ahead,
justify
Dave,
it.
because yeah.
Why? Why does it seem so separate? Where is the separation?
Between all that you said and me saying that I heard the yes, wow,
Right.
thank you. Basically, that's all
No,
I
no, no,
said
no.
was saying.
No, no. Where is
Except
the
I,
separation?
yeah,
Where is it?
what? What do you,
Where is the idea of separation? You just said it with your own words. Everybody
I
heard
know I did, and words are
Right.
symbols. I
Right.
felt
Where is it then?
immediately separate from you.
Right. Good.
When-
That's
when-
good. That's what this is for.
Okay, right,
This
but
whole
I feel
thing,
like
this
there's
whole meeting, this whole thing. Where is that idea of separation?
everywhere. Jesus Christ, it's everywhere. I mean, it's like
Nah. Ready. Everyone do this.
I yeah, okay, I'm doing it. You know, I guess when you said I don't want to say anything anymore because it goes into this like, oh, okay. I mean, I hear what you said.
No, you know what? No, you don't. You don't hear it. Ready? Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Where is the idea of separation?
Well, in my mind.
Right, stop.
But where is the idea
Stop.
that I wasn't getting?
No.
Any
That's
of
what you
what-
use to go into denial. Ready? Stop there. The idea of separation is in my mind.
Yeah.
Feel it. Feel it. Just stay there and connect with it. You have to experience it. Don't jump to the next thing. This is entirely helpful. You just identified a moment of you feeling separate, right? Do you know how long it takes some people to actually come to that point where they can admit they feel separate? You just blurted it out on Zoom in front of everybody. It's like running naked down the street. It's fantastic. Now stay there. Be still. Draw the circle. No? But you see how quickly the ego adjusts.
No, I don't want to stay here.
Right. I know you don't want to.
I guess I just
It's
don't
uncomfortable.
get.
It's really uncomfortable.
It's I suppose that would be one thing.
Right.
Annoying.
Yeah,
Annoying would be a
right.
good one.
Yes. Go
Yeah.
on. Keep going.
Yeah.
Annoying. Keep going. Let's do it. Let's Tina's sick of me picking on her. She's like, yeah, pick on Fran.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Kev.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I guess-
Denial.
Okay, Dave, for Christ's sake, okay? I mean, we could keep doing this. There's another, it's like,
No, we can't keep doing it.
yeah, no, it's like, fuck. Here, I feel like I can't connect when I'm being talked at.
Right. Who's talking at you?
The dream figure, Dave Fair.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Represents what? All things I see reflect ideas. All things I see are the results of my own thinking. What does it represent in you? I guarantee you, Fran, I'm playing the part perfectly that you asked me to play.
I'm getting that. Let me find those symbolic words.
Right.
Arrogance,
Yep.
blowhard,
Yep.
know-it-all,
Yep.
doesn't listen,
Right?
Dismisses,
Yep.
dismissive,
Yep.
funny, doesn't really join. Says great words, even enlightening, but pushes away with them.
Good. Now stay there with that. All that meaning that you've given to me. You had your finger on your nose. That's perfect. I'm one with everything. Right? You got to own that. This is your journey of awakening. My journey of awakening is the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Owning all those things I see in my mirror. Or owning all those things that other people say to me. But I've already accepted that I'm one with all things on earth as above, so below. I am an arsehole. I'm all of that shit. I am everything you want to tell me about it, but it doesn't disturb my peace of mind because I know it about myself as above, so below. I've experienced that I'm one in eternity, just as I'm one on earth. I don't have an experience of separation in my mind. Other than that, you might present me the opportunity to recognize one, but in this case, not really. I was hoping you'd give me something that would throw me for a 6, but nothing. It's all old hat. You know? But we're just playing this out again and again and again. It's the same for Tina, the same for Mariel, same for Joe, same for Bernadette. We're all the same. We're going through the recognition of not just our yin, but our yang as well. You see in me what you deny in yourself. Now, that's where you got to stay because that's where the healing happens. You wouldn't see it in me if you didn't deny it. If your mind was healed, all you would see would be the Christ in your brother. I know the Christ in you perfectly well. There's nothing you can tell me about myself that's going to upset me. And if there is, bring it on. I've been to the bottom. And I'm telling you, when you go to the bottom, that's where I'll be, and we'll laugh together there. I'm telling you, there's nothing to fear. But I'm also telling you that this is a journey into fear, to accept the reflections that we see in our mirror as our own judgments. You can't heal what you can't feel. It's no good if it's just in your head, you know? That's where it's at. That realization, that recognition, it's like, holy crap. I've just found a big chunk of stuff here. Now I need a miracle. I love you, Fran. I love you more than those words can penetrate, you know, much more. But we're here to do the work. We're here to do the work. We're here to get real, even when it looks all fuck. And if it's not looking as ugly as all fuck, then we're not doing the work. I'm the, what do you call it? I'm the arrogant arsehole for salvation.
Admirable adversary.
That's it. Devil's advocate. I don't know what you want to call that, but I'm going to be the mirror You know, it's like, this is the funny thing. I went and saw Amachi once, you know, the mother, the Indian guru, and she's incredible. Don't get me wrong. She's amazing. The vibration that woman gives off. If you ever have the chance to go and sit with her, I highly recommend to do it, even just for a minute. But everybody, like with the exception of Ted, who was with me, and maybe a couple of other guys, but everybody, just on the appearance of things, seem to be doing this. They're all sitting there in reverence of the mother. She's up on the podium and the whole thing. And it just smacks of that false sense of spirituality where there's nothing really going on other than idol worship, you know. But there was a few guys that were just falling apart. They were just collapsed. They were just not handling it. That was the real thing going on, you know. That's what we come together to do, to realize our falsity and to stare it in the face, to look at it, and then to own it. Because once you own it, once you take responsibility for what you see in another, and Jesus is going to be your highest point of reference of that, you know. Once you take responsibility for what you see in somebody else, you're free of it. It doesn't affect you again because you've owned it within yourself and you've reanimated or repossessed a part of yourself that you've projected out into the world as if it's not you. But if I'm one with all things, it must be me. Finger on the nose. That's the best teaching in the whole universe. Finger on the nose. This has to be me. What I see is my mirror. It's a reflection of my own thoughts. Sometimes it takes a minute to bring it up.
Wow. Thank you.
It's good, isn't it? I'm an arsehole. Everyone who's an arsehole, put their hand up. Come on. Let's have it. Yep. Hooray. That's it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm the denial of God. I'm the denial of God. Yeah, 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 motherfuckers.
Oh, Lord.
All right, I'm going to go have some breakfast. I love you guys. Mwah. Bernadette, try putting the bag. It's really cool.
Oh.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't listen to me. Ciao.
Oh.
Mhm.